And
Hey, y'all, I'm Allison Corba. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. My sobriety date's July 7, 2010, and for that day I'm eternally grateful. This day I was separated from alcohol, and there isn't a thing I wouldn't do for this. For the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was actually voluntold that I was doing this about 3 days ago, and thank you, Ben, for that. It humbles me each and every time, and what an awesome conference. And thank you guys for just for my sobriety. And so what I can tell you is I have some profound amends, and I'll try to, if I'll have time for two, maybe. So what I can tell you is I'm a box of wine drinker. I'm a daily drinker, box of wine, big gulp cups, not a glass of wine. And the keen alcoholic mind says that some outside issues might work to cure my alcoholism. And I'm a nurse, and so I started taking outside issues and drinking, and it didn't solve my alcohol problem. I would go to work, and that big cabinet of medications would be mine, and they were all mine, and I thought I owned it. And so one night, when my disease of alcoholism says I have to go, I have to go. It doesn't matter if the kids are there, if I have an important obligation, or it doesn't matter. When I have to go, I have to have what I have to have. And at 2 a.m. in the morning, I went to this hospital where I worked, and I work day shift, not night shift, and it's 2 a.m. And, when I walk into that place of employment, and took what I thought was mine. And, and my people that I was working with, they were working, a man was in cardiac arrest. And, but my disease of alcoholism is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And I have to have what I have to have right then and there. And, when I walk out of that place of employment, and I went home. And fast forward a few hours, 2 days later, I come in, and the nursing board, the sheriff's office, the CEO, all those people are sitting in this big round table, and all bets are off, and I went to treatment in my nursing uniform in the back of an ambulance, and and I was separated from alcohol, physically separated from alcohol, and and I trudged the road in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had when I came in to Alcoholics Anonymous and I got to the amends, I had harmed so many people within that hospital system. I'd worked there for a long time, and my alcoholism affects so many people, and and I got to go make direct amends to those people in that institution. But the problem is I had to get permission because those people in that institution says, please don't ever come back here, even if you're in cardiac arrest. We prefer you not to come back here. You're not welcome here. And so I go to each and every person after I got permission and made direct amends to each and every person I affected. And there's still, what I can tell you is, probably 2 weeks ago while I was working, I ran into someone else that I missed. I made direct amends right there. And, and my side of the street was clean. I got a tax refund. I was living out of a food pantry. My sponsor was like, how much money are you getting back? I was like, $2,200 or something like that. She goes, that's great. You're going to give that to anonymous donation, to the hospital foundation. I was like, you don't understand. I don't have any money. And she said, oh, Allison, they don't want your money. They want their money. And, and so, so therefore I did what she told me to do. And my side of the street was clean. Fast forward 7 years later, and, when I lose my job in sobriety, I got fired because being late is a character defect. It was multiple times. And I'm trying to be transparent and honest with you because I don't want to perceive something that I'm not. And, and I was working night shift at a hospital close to home, and I don't do very well on night shift. And, and I counsel with some other people, and I'm like, what would you say if what would you think about me trying to apply for this job at this place where I got fired, banned for life, don't even come back here, even if you're in your cardiac arrest? And, I can't ever put God in that box. I can't ever put God in that box. God's all-rooming, all-inclusive, never exclusive. And, and I had two people in Alcoholics Anonymous and my sponsor write a character reference letter for me, and I sent those to that place of employment. And, Ryan and I let it go. And Ryan and I came home from a meeting one night, and there's a letter in the mail from this hospital. And I'm like, have you been there? Have you been there? And he's like, no. And the kids haven't been there. None of us have been there. We're not allowed to go there. I'm banned there for life. And, and I open this letter up, and, and it says, you're now eligible to apply to any of our facilities. We'd love to have you as an employee. And, and I was banned from that place for life. And what I can tell you is I worked 3 days a week at that hospital that I was banned for life, that I took everybody's peace and dignity and their trust. I took all those things from those people who were so close to me, and I work there today with those same people that I harmed. And we have a loving, powerful, beautiful relationship. To go even further, I got Employee of the Month. That doesn't happen to this alcoholic. That doesn't happen to an alcoholic of my type. It doesn't happen until I'm recovered from the disease of alcoholism, from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And I'm eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to share.
Hi, everyone. Marion Gibbs, alcoholic. My sobriety date is July 12th, 1987. My home group is the Tennessee group in Knoxville, Tennessee. We open our doors at 6 for coffee and fellowship and a closed literature podium participation meeting at 7. So if you're ever in Knoxville, please feel free to come down on a Thursday. I have a sponsor named Donna who has a sponsor who has a sponsor, and I sponsor other women. So that's all the basics about me. Wow, there's so many profound amends, and I think I'm gonna tell you about two. I'm gonna tell you about my boss. I'm gonna cry. I should have brought my tissues. So when I was I got sober at the law firm that I worked at, and I had to make amends to them because I was never there. I had lies why I couldn't show up to work day after day after day. I filed false police reports so I could get out of going to my job, and it really works when you are when you've been assaulted. Your employer takes pity on you. So when I came back to make amends, when I came back and I got sober at that job after 7 months of working there, and about a year later I wanted to buy a home, but I didn't have the money. And the man that I so disrespected told me, Marion, you are not the same woman who used to work here. I want to loan you that money. Because see, one day his secretary was gone out of the office and I had to go work for him. And I got a royalty check for $1.42. And I said, well, what do you want me to do with it? He goes, I want you to put it in the client trust account, and then I want you to split it 60-40. I go, God, Bob, you are Jewish, aren't you? And he got mad. And I said, I'm sorry. But sorries are cheap from someone like me. The book says a long road of reconstruction ahead. And a mumbling of an apology isn't going to be good enough. So I came home and I called my sponsor and I told her what I had done. And I went back into the office the next day and I said, Bob, can I talk to you for a moment? And he said, yes. And I said, you know what? I make jokes at the expense of other people all the time. And the worst kind of joke that I could ever make is a stereotypical joke that Jews are cheap. I would like to set this right with you. If you could tell me how I could do that. He said, I'd like you to meet my mother. My parents were in Nazi concentration camps. And his mother still had the tattoo up on her arm. And he brought his mother in for me to meet and experience this love between a mother and a son. And for me not to be so critical and so harsh, even when I think jokes are funny. And when he gave me that money, he has the least reason to give me any sort of money, any sort of help. But because of Alcoholics Anonymous, he said, you are not the same woman who used to work here. My second one is my father. When I was a kid, I stole. My dad was a blue-collar worker. We didn't have a lot. But my dad worked really hard, and when he would get laid off from his job, he would sell encyclopedias door to door to make money to put food on the table for my family. He didn't walk away, and he didn't seek government assistance. He looked what he could do to support his family. And my dad had a coin collection that he started, and he saved, and expensive coins. But I got $2 a week allowance, and my girlfriend's got $20 a week allowance. Well, when you smoke and you drink and you use other things, you need to be able to produce. And I stole my dad's coin collection. And I would put 30 cents in the cigarette machine so I could buy a pack of cigarettes. I would take all the change out of there so I could buy booze to support my friends. And when I got caught, he said, why would you do that? And I said, I don't know. My whole life I've said, I don't know. I don't know. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous and I worked on that inventory and I shared it with my sponsor and I went through my character defects and I looked how I could make amends, I went to my father and I told him why. Because all he ever wanted to know was, why would you steal from your family? And I told him that fear drove me. I am so fearful that I'm going to be cut out of my friendships and I'm going to be left alone, that I'm willing to steal from my own family. And I told him those things, why I had done those things. And for the first time in my father's life, he understood why I did those things. And I said, I can never get back that coin collection for you. But what can I do to make this right? And he said, Marion, you can't get that back. But you've been sober, and I've watched you grow, and those things aren't necessary. And so the girl who stole from her parents all the time, and my brother is a state senator in the state of California. My sister was an executive in a Fortune 500 company. And like you, I'm the trustee of my parents' trust. And it's like, how does a girl who steals everything from her family get into a position of trust? And so I'm really grateful that I had a sponsor who helped me to understand so I could tell you what those defects were, so I could explain the actions that I took. Thank you.
Woo! Hi guys, I'm Mindy. I'm an alcoholic. Hey guys, I turned 4, big 1-4, no, just 04. Last week when I was in Florida. Yeah. Thank you. I have a sponsor, Ben. He slipped me the questions last night. I'm just kidding. He didn't. But he has been checking up on me all week. I promise you. So my amends, like, man, if you would have asked me this after I'd made these amends, I would have probably been like, I mean, they were special, but they weren't like the ones. But I've just gone through this 8 months of building and growing and feeding resentments at not one of my family members, but all 4 of them. Okay, that's what I did. And it's like when I first made amends, to my parents, it was I did a lot more extracurricular things than drinking, the shock factor, all this stuff, and I remember leaving it and being like, with my dad, and it was the one I was afraid of. Like with my mom, like I'm gay. I don't know if you can tell that, but I am. I have mommy issues, right? We have this toxic, like codependent relationship. There's a lot more meat to that relationship, right? Like my dad, very surface, my brother and my sister, just very surface. Like I come from this religious family and, I'm not just the black sheep, I'm the rainbow sheep, like I'm really, really over there, Like, virgins when they were married, save it. Like, they're doing all that, and I'm trying out everything else, everywhere. But anyways, so it was surfacey. There wasn't like a lot of meat. Well, what I found, and not just here, but throughout, since I've opened up to the idea of a higher power, is that my higher power is hilarious. My resentments were, I'm mad that they're okay with surface relationships. So God was like, guess what? We're going to buy this family restaurant business at an auction, and you're going to work with your family, And now there's a lot of meat there, right? And so, I went from this place, my brother asked me, Mindy, will you come paint this trailer that's on this property? And I'm listening to speaker tapes, half the speakers that are here, I'm painting the walls. I'm like, I have arrived, and I know that you don't do that. I have over that danger in my book, Don't ever say I have arrived, but I feel good, I feel okay. I'm feeling spiritual, I'm being of service. Well, it turns out, if you put someone with unmanageability issues in a manager position, I'm going to come out, right? So I've spent this whole last year running the family business and deciding that I'm entitled to things again. I crawled in here with nothing, knew I deserved nothing, knew I had nothing to offer. And oh my gosh, you give me 2 years of recovery under my belt and hand me the keys to a business. Look what I do, y'all. Look what I'm doing, family. I got people coming in the doors. I'm a graphic designer. I'm handling social media. I need a raise. That's what I'm doing. And by the time I asked Ben to sponsor me, man, I was super sick. I wasn't thinking about drinking. I was thinking about, why am I on this earth? What is the point? Why did God create me? That's where I go. And we started going through this book again, and I loved how he shared, this is dynamic. I have been the knowledge, the menu digester, right? I've been chewing on that menu. It's plastic. I know the words. I've memorized the menu. I forgot that part of the magic of the menu is back being in the kitchen, making the food, getting your hands dirty, cutting yourself on the knives. I forgot that what I was actually doing in building these resentments was learning what's on the menu again, and when I went through this book with him, dude, I love this book, and I love this book not in a way that I need to regurgitate it. I love it because it is dynamic. It is alive. It came alive, and he said something to me one time, and it was part of your character is say I'm a gossiper, right? If that's part of my character, while I'm doing that, I have no other choice. When I'm in self, that's who I am. I'm a gossip. When I start chasing God, and trying to give God these things, all of a sudden it becomes out of my character and I no longer do these things, right? So the amends, I'm going through this fifth step and I'm seeing my brother, when I read my brother to Ben, he was I wouldn't even let my kids around that guy. And I was like, Ben, he's the nicest guy I know. He is, He's amazing. My dad's amazing. My mom's amazing. My sister's amazing. And what I saw is man, I am a snake in the grass, right? And what happens is I lose trust in God. That's all that happened. I lost trust in God. Right? I stopped doing my disciplines. I start running my life again, and all of a sudden, I'm down here with a plastic sword, swinging, trying to move things. You know what I mean? And I'm just spewing acid. I'm not doing anything. When I give it to God, man, God moves the things that need to be moved. God shows me where to step. I don't know these things. But anyway, so through this process, through this softening of my spirit, man, and through the fact-finding process, oh my God, I get to see how delusional I am and how I've just built cases and cases. And I'm telling you, I'm good at convincing not just myself, I have my friends girl, that's not fair. We need to tell them, he's a grown man. He should run this business, and it's man, I'm sick. I can be so sick, clean or sober, sober, sorry. I am an alcoholic. I can be so sick, but when I can see these facts, man, what I get is humility. And when I have humility, man, I know I need God, and like that fervor, that fire under that rocket has been lit again. And like, oh my God, I don't want to step outside of God's will, because I know what I do when I do that, right? And like, I just filed my taxes, and like, it just came out of my mouth. I didn't want to say it, but I was like, Dad, I'm giving you every bit of this, And I am, and it's like, for the past year, I've been wanting to think that I needed to gain the courage to ask for more. And I stopped doing that because I started to see, man, I've got everything I ever needed. And all of a sudden, man, I have deep relationships with my siblings, right? My mom has stage 4 cancer right now, and it's been really terrifying. And during those resentments, like, I would come home, and she's sitting there with her little bald head, and I'm pissed off. I don't even have a conversation with her, and I just got to go to Florida. I got to hold my brother's baby. I got to see my mom geek out over her grandchild, like I'm getting to be present in the moments that God has intended for me by not stepping off the path, trying to get what I think I deserve, right? So that would be my amends, that like I'm currently in them and making them. Like my role is to be the big sister, and in trying to be Mindy, I was trying to take from my little siblings instead of trying to show them what love and support is, and like all I ever wanted was my dad to be proud of me. And like, just like she was saying, I write my own check, and I stole from every credit card they owned. I would take pictures. I stole from them. I get to write my own paycheck, and I get to do it honestly, and it feels good. And I'm not worried about what's coming to me, because there's a lot of stuff I owe out here, and I still owe stuff. And it's not about getting. That's what I got. All right.
It's funny, the men went over every time, and the women go short. So, okay, so the next one is going to be, what is the hardest thing that you went through in recovery? And we'll start with you, Allison.
I'm Allison. I'm still an alcoholic. I forgot to say my home group is the Pleasant Valley Group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. We travel in packs, and we are a spiritual entity. So there's been, I don't know, my husband said it best last night. He said, even when it's bad, it's good. But I can tell you, like, one of the hardest things, when I was out there drinking, I found out I was pregnant when I was 18 years old, and I could not stop drinking. And I drank my entire pregnancy with that child, and my oldest child suffered the most from my disease of alcoholism. I drug him through the ringer, and he was my one constant through my whole drinking career. And, when I got sober, I didn't know how to be a mom, and the women in Alcoholics Anonymous and the men showed me how to be a mom. And, I was a single mom with 3 little boys, and you people would, so I could listen in the meetings. You guys would take care of my children, and my boys were raised in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they practiced spiritual principles. And still to this day, our kids are all grown, and I'm a bonus mom too. So I don't know, probably 5 years sober. I had no clue, but my son came and laid in the fetal position in my floor, and and he said, "Mom, I can't stop drinking. I just want to die." And I had no clue my son was drinking the way he was drinking. I was oblivious to it. But what I can tell you is I can't save him. I'm just as powerless over him as I am over alcohol. And so I did what I knew to do. I delivered my son to the men in Alcoholics Anonymous. And what those men did for him is they took him. Richie, who's gone to the big meeting in the sky, he was mine and Ryan's best friend. He showed him how to live. He took him through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous at 17 years old. And, when he recovered, and I don't know if he's alcoholic. He doesn't go to AA anymore, but he lives a big, purposeful life in North Carolina, and he does good things, you know. But that one thing brought me to my knees in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I was absolutely powerless, and and I had to let go and realize that I can't fix him. I can't fix me. I cannot fix me, but there is one who has all power, and that one is God. And and I'm so grateful to those men in Alcoholics Anonymous that helped save his life. And they practiced. It's so funny because our boys would, even still to this day, they'll be like, "You're on page 66." They're not. It's not really the right page, and they'll say, "You're selfish and self-centered. You're being selfish and self-centered to the extreme." And that's what they've heard their entire lives. And they've got to see a sober mom and a sober dad, and for the majority of their lives. And if I had not been sober, at 5 years sober, if I had not been sober, where would Christopher be? Who would he have come to? Who would he have come to? I have no clue the impact that my sobriety has on the people who have come before me or who have come after me. I have no clue. I may be the only person that can reach another sick and suffering alcoholic. I think one of the hardest things in sobriety was walking through the door of Alcoholics Anonymous and realizing that I am alcoholic and I am absolutely powerless over alcohol. I always say I was a coffee sucker-upper and a chair taker-upper in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous for about 18 months. And, I almost died in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Every day I would drive this windy road after going to a noon meeting, and I'd be like, what telephone pole is it going to be today? I didn't want to surrender to the idea that maybe, just maybe, y'all are living these big purposeful lives. Maybe this might work. I still thought that I still could control, and it took me going back out and on a 3-day drunk to realize that, hey, I'm alcoholic and I have to do these things in order to stay alive. And I'm so grateful that I finally realized that I am alcoholic. I live a big life today, and even when it's good, even when it's bad, it's good. There's so many things that have happened in my sobriety that have been troubling, but it's never once has a thought entered my mind that a drink would sound good. Since I've taken the 12 steps and I'm grounded in the spiritual principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, it doesn't even cross my thoughts. Could it come back? Absolutely. But there was 4 old men that used to spoon feed me the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous in the back of a pickup truck, and they were never inappropriate, they were never off color. All they wanted was this girl to stay sober and to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had no clue what they were saying. I had no clue where they were getting all this really awesome stuff at, and I was like, man, they're so full of all this really cool stuff. And today I know what that is. It's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but that's, there's such a, as Sandy Beach says, there's such a big treasure, if I just follow the directions and, I get these gifts. But if I hadn't had that, if I hadn't been able to have the courage, that faith to say, yes, I am an alcoholic, what do I have to do? And quit asking why. I don't know where I would be, So I think that was my hardest thing in Alcoholics Anonymous, to say, yes, I am one of those too. Yes, I am alcoholic. What do I have to do? And to say, maybe this God idea might work, and I'm all in. I'm all in this deal. And, for the past, 12 years, I've been all in. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And I'll pass.
Well, Ben, 35 years, there's a lot of troubles in sobriety. And it's like, which one do you pick as the one that was the most difficult? Was it when my first husband in Alcoholics Anonymous cheated on me and got another woman pregnant? Pretty troublesome. Was it when all 4 of our parents died in an 8-month period? was pretty difficult. And then trying to weigh which one that I'm going to talk about. Or was it when I moved from Los Angeles or from California to Tennessee with 29 years of sobriety? And the hardest one out of the three was moving, 29 years of sobriety. Because when my husband cheated on me, I was fully immersed in Alcoholics Anonymous. My feet had been planted. When my parents died a year ago, I was fully immersed in Alcoholics Anonymous, and my feet were on solid ground here in Knoxville, Tennessee. But when I moved here, I thought AA was going to be in place exactly like I wanted it. The book says, in A Vision for You, we know what you are thinking. You are saying to yourself, I'm jittery and alone. I couldn't do that, but you can. You forgot that you have now tapped a source of power much greater than yourself. To duplicate with such backing what we have accomplished is only a matter of willingness, patience, and labor. And then it says, God will determine that, so you must remember that your real reliance is always upon Him. He will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. So when I came over to Knoxville, I'm at the meetings. I'm like, hey, I'm Marion. I just moved here. And people are like, okay. I'm like, hey, hi, I'm Marion. And they're like, okay. And they were getting to a meeting a minute before the meeting started. And leaving a minute after the meeting. My home group in California, we opened well before an hour. We had a greeting line, and then we'd have the meeting, and then we'd all go out to dinner, 30, 40 of us every Friday night. We'd go to Denny's. And I'd pull into a new meeting location, and there'd be 12, 14 cars in the parking lot. I'm like, great, but everybody's sitting in their car. And I'm calling my sponsor all the time. And she's like, well, what do you think you could do about that? I don't know. I know what she's asking me to do. I don't know. And that continues. And I don't have a home group. What I did was I went to 5 meetings a week, and I give every meeting a month. Just because it's bad today doesn't mean it's going to be bad the next time. I need to get the full flavor of the meeting. So I went up to North Knoxville. I went up to Anderson County, Blount County, Loudoun County, Knox County. I'm everywhere going to meetings. And at the end of the month, I would discard 3 and add 3 new meetings in there. And I'm sticking out my hand, and they're looking at me like well, who are you? Hey, I am desperate for that fellowship that I can't find. I did corrections work, H&I in California, hospitals and institutions. Here it's treatment and corrections. I did that my whole sobriety. I went on my first panel carrying more of the mess than the message at 30 days of sobriety. But I love that kind of work, and we didn't have a corrections meeting. Some people were carrying in a message, but there was no corrections. I went to the treatment committee. There were 2 people at the treatment committee. And I'm calling my sponsor. I go, they don't even have corrections. And she said, maybe that's why you moved there. I go, no, it's not. So I continue to complain about what is going on. And what happened was I met a woman, and I don't even know where I met her. And she said, oh, we go out to dinner on Thursday nights if you want to go. And I said, yes, where? And I come home and I told my husband, I go, we're having dinner with these people. And he said, who are they? I go, I don't know, but we're going. And we started to have dinner with them every Thursday night. But I still didn't have a home group. And so I got cleared to go into Morgan County Correction at 90 days of sobriety. 90 days after moving here. And that became, and Dave, we carry the message together up there. And that became my home group because it was a structured meeting because it's inside the institution. I come from a structured home group. And when I got here, it wasn't like what I was used to. But yet I took the message that I learned from 3 other women. A friend of mine, Shrally, out in the Palm Desert, she'd been sober a very long time. And she was complaining about everybody moving out to Palm Desert and trying to take over. She goes, I hate those bastards. And then she started to laugh. She goes, well, now I know why nobody liked me, because that's what I did when I moved here. So I heard, don't take over. And then the next one was, I met a woman, a friend of mine, who had moved at 30 years of sobriety to another state, and I met her, hooked up with her at the international conference, and she was off the hook. Untreated alcoholism, spinning. And she hated AA where she moved. She wouldn't go to meetings. And I thought, no matter how bad I might find it, I need to get connected. And then I used to drive an hour every Saturday to meet my sponsor at a woman's meeting. And one of my gals went with me, and they have the meeting different. She goes, that's not how we do it. I go, no, but that's how they do it here. And I had to know that this is how you do it in Tennessee. And it wasn't going to be what I'm used to, but I'm going to have to be able to adapt to it. And then after my book study in Loudoun County on a Monday night, when I come out of the bathroom and everybody is gone except the guy with the key waiting so he can lock the door behind me, I get in my car and I hear my sponsor's voice. What do you think you can do about this? And I picked up the phone and I called two men that I went to the prison with every Tuesday night, and I said, would you like to have dinner tomorrow night before we go up to the prison? And we've been meeting for dinner every Tuesday night since. See, I have to put out the effort. And it says that, it says with the labor. So my friend Heather got sober in California, and we decided to start the Tennessee group. It's a California-style AA meeting with a podium participation. It's the only one like it in Knoxville. And, we crafted out the bylaws and the meeting format, and then we invited 6 other people to join and be part of the steering committee and take service commitments at that position. And our very first night, we had 43 people that showed up to that meeting, and we have well over 100 every Thursday night. And that first year, she gave me my coin. We don't do it in California. I moved here in June. My birthday's in July. And she gave me my coin, and I don't know anybody in the room. And I'm at a kind of high-end meeting, and I tell them my last week of drinking, and they're like horrified. I'm like, oh. And then the next year, she gives me my coin, and I'm sitting in a room with 2 people I go to dinner with on Thursday nights, 2 people I go to the prison with every Tuesday night, 2 of my sponsees, and a handful of friends. And the next year, I take my cake at the Tennessee group, and I have 100 friends sitting in that room. It required that work and that commitment for that to come to fruition, and I'm so grateful that I didn't give it up. And I feel like I have 3 lifetimes. I had my first part of my life till I was 26. I had my first 29 years of sobriety in California, where I have a host of friends. And then I have all the new friends. And I tell people, I finally feel like I've been born and raised here in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's home. I feel like I've been here my whole life. And it's the people here in Alcoholics Anonymous who've given that to me, who made me feel like this is home, who've loved me, who took me in, and showed what the fellowship can do for us if we're willing to put out the effort. So thank you.
I'm still Mindy. Oh, the hardest thing, a relationship. I've been in a 6-year relationship. I met her in the rooms. And that's where I'm really seeing I got a lot of growing to do. I kind of thought it was the other way around, and I couldn't wait for her to hear that, and I'm learning I am so flawed. And it's fun to learn that, it's fun to grow. And, that's not my hardest thing, though. I was just being facetious. So the hardest thing for me would definitely be my physical health. So I was a Division I athlete, overachiever, great grades. You know, I didn't have parents that made me do that. I had a need inside of me for approval that was so large. That's why I was good at everything. It's not because I'm special. I needed to be. I could not survive without it, because from the beginning I felt like there was something wrong with me, you know. But anyways, I ended up getting bit by a tick when I was dirt biking while I was a college athlete, and not long after that I just started spiraling and ended up with chronic Lyme. I went 4 years without a diagnosis, and in that time I lost things for the first time. I know they're the stupidest bad dreams, but I used to have bad dreams. Like, I'd wake up and I had finally, I had remembered that I had a class that I didn't know I'd had all semester, and I'd done well in all the other classes, but this whole time I'd not been going to this class, and I was going to fail. You know, I was like having just these hauntings of failing, man, because like I didn't know how to fail. You know, I knew how to lose games and how it builds character, and like you win some, you lose some, and then it makes you fight and practice harder, but I did not know about real loss, right? I also grew up with a silver golden spoon in my mouth. You know, I had everything I didn't want for nothing. We had amazing vacations, amazing childhood, you know. But it was the physical illness for me, because what happened is my whole life I've just felt so incomplete. I come out as gay in this religious family, and I really feel flawed, you know. I am, right? And I had built all these things, these achievements, man. That's what I put out here, so y'all didn't really see me. Like, y'all saw, oh, a great athlete, oh, successful in school, oh, like, she's got her stuff together probably. You know, on the inside, I'm a wreck, dude. I don't know who I am, don't know why I'm here. And when I got sick, all those things were gone. Here I was, naked, you know, in front of the mirror, and like, man, I don't know who I am. I don't like what I see. Without achievements, what am I, you know? That's when I found alcohol. And that's when I gave up on life, you know, until I found out what was wrong with me. And that was like amazing, because I really just thought I was like losing my mind for a while, and I just quit life, you know, just out of nowhere. I just decided I was going to act sick for 4 years. Then I found out I actually was, so that was great, but also not great for a victim, because now I have a reason why I can stay a sick alcoholic too, right? But anyway, since I got into the rooms and the steps, I think without knowing it, and dude, I came in an atheist, like I'm not playing around with that term. I know what it says in the book, like few really are. Like, I put a lot of work into that. I did all the research. I watched the atheist tapes several times. I could quote it. You know what I mean? Like, I put work into that. It was my religion, granted, but I was an atheist, right? And I remember people saying that, just like earlier, like an alcoholic death or spirituality, like I'll probably choose death, actually, because I can't believe in that. I don't have the ability. I think it's fake. I think y'all crazy. You know, I'm the sick alcoholic, but y'all crazy. But then, man, alcohol beat the crap out of me, worse than being sick did, you know, and I was willing to do anything, and I was willing to try this God thing. And so I started doing these steps, man, and I start to feel the effects of a higher power in my life, and that's what makes me believe it's not your version of God that I get to hear, or my version to you. It's the effects in my life. Just like I like the effects of alcohol, I need to feel that. Now I believe it. I need evidentiary facts in my life, you know, fact finder, right? Even when I'm delusional. Thank you. Yeah. But anyways, without knowing, man, I'm growing towards this thing. I'm like kind of on board with like giving my life to it and being a service and serving, and like no longer my will but God's will, you know. But in the back of my mind, there's this idea that if I do this thing just right and perfectly, God's going to heal me, you know, because I mean, the first 2 years, I still struggled with my health so much, and what that looks like for me is extreme fatigue, sleeping for days, rain fog. I used to get lost in my kitchen. My girlfriend would come out and be like, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "I don't know." I'm putting soda in the cabinet. My brain's gone, and I'm really attached to this thing because I think it's elaborate, great thinking, And it was very, it was harrowing and scary. And I thought God was going to heal me, right? And then I kind of get to this place where I'm not getting better, My life consists of meetings, step work, sponsees. And I want more. I want more. I want to live. Y'all are getting to live, When do I get to live? It's not enough that I'm not dying because I about died. I'm entitled again, right? That's kind of my theme here. I get entitled again. Well, anyway, somewhere in the mix of that, man, in falling in love with working with other alcoholics, because it's all I had. It's the only purpose I had in my life. It's the only thing that kept me going. I said, God, okay, dude, if you want me to be sick forever, if this is going to be my jam, I'll be sick forever. I'm yours. Let's do it. Let's roll. I'll work with your kids. You know what I'm doing? I'll work with them and I'll do it, and, not long after that, man, I met this lady who I was at for this prevention thing, and I went there, and she told me about this doctor, and I wouldn't have met her or heard about this doctor if I wasn't there, if I wasn't in these rooms that got me there, right? And all of a sudden, dude, I have health today. I'm running a business. Did you hear that? I've been running a business. I've been able to work. My health, I had PICC lines in my arms. I had IV antibiotics for over a year. I couldn't do anything, and I got my health back, dude. I remember I ran around my house, for the first time I could do physical activity as an athlete, right? I ran around my house, and I was like a child, jumping up, just being yeah, yes, dude, I can run. I love the sweat, love this. And I can go from that to, well, why did I trust God with my health? Because I'm supposed to probably be a tattoo artist, not the manager of a restaurant. God, I trusted you to heal me, which is insane that I'm even healed, and then I'm going to get that entitled, And what I keep coming to is just man, the hilariousness in all of it, how hilarious do I get? How serious do I take life? It reminds me of this, I don't know if you would call it a parable or a story, and I might murder it, and I might not even know where it came from. I think it's Chinese, okay? And it's, there's this poor man in this village, and he's got this horse, and it's the way he makes money, right? He takes all this stuff to town, and that's how he makes money. That's how he lives. That's how he feeds his family. Well, he's going into town, and then all of a sudden his horse runs off into the woods, and oh my God, his livelihood's gone, right? All these people coming up to him, oh my God, dude, that's horrible. This is horrible. What are you going to do? That's so bad. And he's like, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. And then a few days later, man, that horse comes down with a flock, a herd of horses. And everyone's like, oh my God, you're going to make so much money. This is great. This is great. And he's like, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. And then his son's out here working with these new horses, and he falls off the horse and he breaks his leg, and everybody's like, oh my God, your son, this is horrible. What are you going to do? And he's like, maybe it's bad. Maybe it isn't. I don't know, and then the Chinese army comes through the village, and they come to get all the able-bodied men to take them to this battle where they're going to die. And everybody's like, that's so great, your son is spared. And he's like, maybe it's good, maybe it isn't. And that's what I'm learning, seeing the level of, man, my delusions, man, my alcoholic mind, that's my real problem. These are possessions of my mind, right? I've got the allergy, but what takes me to the allergy? This thing, it's crazy, dude. And it's Like when I can go from, I'm right, this isn't fair, this is horrible, everyone should see this the way I see it too. Maybe I'm wrong, you know? Maybe it's not that bad. You know, that's where I'm starting to see, like, if being sick is part of who I am, it's the part of me that's going to help somebody like me who cannot figure out how to do life sick. You know, and like, I can do life sick because I'm not the one doing it. God provides. I always have what I need. If sometimes, man, like the best I got is laying in bed and watching a cheesy ass movie, you know, and like trying not to beat myself up that day because I'm not doing more. That's my jam, beating myself up. I need to achieve, right? And some days my best looks like running a business that I'm not really running, right? It's just hilarious to me. Like, the bad things that I think I have are always the current things, and I'm going to have more current things in the future that are going to feel worse than this thing, that's going to always be worse, and I'll always convince you that it's worse because it's the current thing. And I'm so glad that I have a solution for all of my problems today, right? Like, how lucky are we that we exist at a time when there's something like this happening? You know, like back in the day, like what they do, they wrote letters and waited like a while for them to get there. You know, like before this, I'm like messaging Ben, I'm like, SOS, cookie face. You know, like, where are you at? And it's like, it's not that serious, you know. Who knows? Maybe it's bad, maybe it isn't. That's all.
Oh, let's give them another hand. That was fantastic.